be on their team, and that right there is a fact. Hailing from the Yukon, White Horse's favorite son, Tahmoh, Penikett. Good call, Tahmoh. That I'm so thrilled to see. Tahmoh and I haven't seen each other in 3 years, right? Didn't we figure that out?
I think that was the math, and I was so upset not to see you the last con.
I know.
I almost turned away and left, but
like they're doing right now?
Just like that. It's so good to see you guys.
So good to see you, my
friend.
friend.
So good to see you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Did Elena sit on the chair? She just walked around all social woman that she is. Let's sit on the chair. How's everybody doing? Good to see you. It's good to be back in Vegas. Now I can't remember, did I do this a couple of years ago? Or was it a couple of years ago? More than that. Who was here when my cousin showed up? Yeah, that was funny, right? My cousin Marvin from Alaska. Big native guy, I hadn't seen him forever. He surprised me, he was in town. And then he was messing with all of you because people were asking me, so what does Tahmoh really mean? How do you say it? How do you say Tahmoh? And he was making up all these things. I had someone come up to me like totally serious, straight face, like, your cousin told me your name means horny beaver. Is that true? I was like, sorry, what was that? Horny beaver? Absolutely true, yes. Yeah, he messed with a whole bunch of you. He must have been convincing too. Anyway. Did I mention I'm happy to be here? You guys are going to have a wonderful week. I'm unfortunately only here for the day, but I know this Vegas trip is always a big one. It's a big convention for everyone, and you guys are going to get into it for days and days. Excited for you. Do we have any questions?
They're way on each side.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
So I would like to kind of drag you back a bit into 2007 when you did a little movie called Trick or Treat. And I would like to know your thoughts on basically being a part of horror cult history in being in that movie.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because every Halloween I have people reach out on social media and they're like, I had no idea, I just saw you in Trick or Treat, I didn't know you were in that. It's amazing to me how many people haven't seen it. Trick or Treat, for every reason, and Michael Dougherty, the director and the writer of that show, is genius. I love Michael. That is a cult classic in the Halloween genre, and it should have been even bigger than it is. The funny thing is, I think every year, so many people still just jump on board or just heard about it, that it's actually growing in popularity, and it's becoming that cult classic. For reasons that I don't quite understand, between studios that were competing or both producing the product, the film didn't come out for 3 years after it was made. We did it, and there was amazing actors involved, incredible cast. It was so good. I know that Michael's intentions were that it was going to become like, you know, like Scream. It should have been like a crazy trilogy. He had them all fleshed out in his head, but the film wasn't released for 3 years. And I think it was because there was some sort of disagreement between the studios, and they were trying to sabotage each other in a weird sort of way. It was like some broken relationship. And as a result, there's never been a second one. I know that there's always calls from fans to Michael to try and make a part 2. I would encourage all of you guys, if you like that genre, check it out, support it, and let's get the hashtag going, because there's every reason there should be a part 2 of that. It's so good. And Mike forced me to wear spandex in it. And he surprised me on the day. He's like, here's your costume. And I saw the spandex and I go, Mike, I've never worn spandex, and I'm not about to wear spandex. And he's like, oh, yes, you are. I'm the boss. Did you know? I guess it was, gosh, it was pretty funny. Thank you. Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
When acting, do you play a character or become a character?
That's a good question. I mean, you're always playing a character. That kind of like. There's the whole argument between method acting and not. There's many different schools of acting, but I think most actors would tell you that there are certain roles that, because of your personal connection to them, you may have a sort of a cellular understanding of the character and their experience and the story. You may read it and just feel and understand it in a way that you don't need to go beyond and do all the extra work that we do as actors, which are examining the given circumstances, making some strong stories about, strong choices about backstory, and what's happened to your character prior, who everyone is to them, and your substitution, and all the different layers of acting, all the things that we as actors do. Sometimes you just get a role, you understand a character in a different way. I've been blessed enough to have that happen to me a couple times, and when that happens, you really lose yourself in the character when you're doing it. You are 100% present and there. I had that experience most times when I was playing Hilo in Battlestar Galactica. Thank you very much. Because there were some just tremendous scenes and some amazing writing in there, and when I read them, I just understood them. And it wasn't being lazy. I just knew that I knew exactly what was required in the story, and it obviously it resonated with me in a way that my own personal life experiences. I could understand who this character was and where he was in that exact moment in his life and what he was fighting for, who he was, and I would say that for most actors, luckily if they've had a professional career, there are times where that is the case. They become the character. But we're almost always playing, even in those times. As many times as Hilo was that guy for me, there were many times where I was doing an exposition type scene with Hilo where I was delivering some information, and any actor will tell you that's very hard. I wasn't being a character. I was very much an actor trying to spit out some information for the audience, and just they're never easy to do because they're harder to memorize, and they can be difficult. So you're always going in and out, But sometimes. You might do a film, because TV series is spread out over a long time, right? Whereas a film, especially independent film, you're working at a feverish pace, especially if you're one of the leads, and you're working day in and day out, and you can really just drop in and be in that place. I've heard friends of mine who have worked with some of the best actors in the world talk about how those actors specifically they become the character for a long time. I had a buddy of mine who worked with a famous actor, and he was so surprised at me because the actor is originally Welsh, and he said at the end of the production he worked with him for 3 months, and then they had a wrap party like a week later or something, and suddenly the guy was talking with his Welsh accent, and he was on set with him every single day. He had this, this southern drawl because they were doing a Western, and he was the hardest thing for him to wrap his head around. Really hard for him to wrap his head around. So it changes. It changes. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I was hoping you could say hi to my friend Trinity, and my question is, do you have a personal headcanon about Gabriel interacting with cats, because he was so afraid of cats in season 9. I thought he must have interacted with them because I didn't figure he'd be afraid of a regular angel.
Sorry, say the first part again. First part of the question?
Could you say hi to my friend Trinity?
Trinity! Hi, Trinity. We miss you. Where is she?
She's right there.
Is she?
She's just shot.
Hi, Trinity. Hi, Trinity. I'll say hi after. And then, yeah, I mean, that was kind of written in there. I don't know. They didn't share a lot of scenes, unfortunately, the two characters. And, they did have one charming, funny little scene. I think there was definitely room for more of that. I wish they had more interaction. I really wish that they had more interaction, because I had a blast working with him. Yeah, that was a miss on the writer's part. I think we should have had more interaction between those two angels. It was a real missed opportunity. I think there could have been a lot of humor, a lot of angel humor. And it just it didn't happen. And I don't know, the unfortunate thing is you're always left wanting for stuff like that. As much as I had such a wonderful time on the show, on most shows that I've done, even as a regular or one of the leads, there's always some cast you never really got to work with. And even though you were on that show, you're dear friends with them, you're always kind of like, oh, I wish we had some more scenes together. Like, back to Battlestar, we had such a huge cast. We had our main 7, then we had another 7, and then another 7. Right? There was a whole bunch of main actors. But I literally didn't get to act. They're dear friends of mine, consider them family. I didn't get to act with a bunch of them. I shared just minor scenes with them, or I'd be in a group scene with them. But I never had like one-on-one interaction with them. And but it's hard. It's hard in the TV world. You're moving a story forward, and especially when you have an A and B storyline, and you're trying to focus on the A story. You can only have so much interaction between all the characters. So I was always left wanting for more. I don't know that he was too terrified of cast, but that was definitely there. I think it was the guilt that was. I think Drill never lost. He was always. He's just a traumatized angel, man. He'd been tortured for years and he was dealing with a lot of guilt about letting the servant in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, so I see you in a lot of different things, loved you in all of them, and I was wondering, how do you switch between different parts and different things? Like, they're all so different.
Yeah, there's always a process. You've got to do the work. Just to touch on what the other person asked in terms of acting technique, you get a role, and for me personally, I go through all my steps. There's a lot of basic steps that pretty much all actors do, but like the most basic thing that we as humans recognize in actors when we're seeing them perform is that drive to achieve something. What is their objective? There's an overall objective as an actor. Like you look at a script, let's say it's a film. Maybe the overall objective is to be loved, or to gain power, or to feel strong, or it could be as simple as to survive, or to save my baby. That's why you might see a role where, and making strong choices like that, when they're not obvious in the script to the audience, is something that we, on an empathetic level, understand. Like you could see a young woman playing a performance, but it has nothing to do with a baby or what have you, but she could make a choice that she's pregnant, and to survive, she has to save her baby. Do you know what I mean? That will drive her performance all the way through. You as the audience, especially you as parents, will see that in her. You will see that in her eyes, you will see that in her every scene. And that's what allows us to connect with. That's why we love the medium of film and television so much, because we connect with humans with examples in our own life where we understand that at a cerebral level. We get it. We know what they're fighting for, even though we can't articulate it, and maybe it's not clear. We see that compelling drive in that person. So that's the first step. And then, specifically to scenes, there's a scene objective. So in this scene, I'm still trying to save my baby, but how am I doing it? Well, this man is threatening my life, so maybe I have to use, humor or sexuality, or I need to make him feel disarmed. There's specifics. These are the basic steps as actors. This is how we approach it. And then, of course, you make backstory. You make some choices about your story, your character's background, if the director or the writer hasn't given it to you. And you flesh that out, color it. And by doing all these things, you bring it in and it really shows in the performance. Then you throw it away. Like you forget about all the backstory you've done. Once you've done that work, you as the actor knows that. Preparation is everything for acting. If you're prepared, then actors are free, and that's when they do their best work. I think that's it. I mean, I can go on. Thank you. That's a good question.
Hi. So my wife, Sejin, is from South Korea. She watched the first 10 seasons of Supernatural in Korea, emigrated to the States, and then watched them in English. So she's watched every episode twice.
Fantastic. Hi, Sejin.
Yep, right in the middle there. So I goes, yep, she's waving actually. All right. She's a little shy, but I guess not too shy now. She was really excited when she saw me come up. So I know this is sacrilege, so don't hate me, everyone. I have not watched any Supernatural. but hold on. But I have watched Battlestar Galactica. Okay. My wife has not. We have a plan. So we're going to watch Battlestar Galactica and Supernatural, so we'll binge both of those.
I love it. That's fantastic.
And then just a little funny note there, Supernatural, between Supernatural, SpongeBob, and South Park, it's kind of shaped her English speaking over here. So.
That's fantastic.
But my question is, so I'm going to go to Battlestar Galactica because that was an amazing reboot of it. The two questions I have for you, because everyone keeps asking, what was the Cylons plan? Did they ever reveal that to you? Yeah. And then the second part of the question is, what was your favorite story arc or favorite episode from Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah, I mean, that's up for speculation. The Cylons' ultimate plan. I mean, you've got to. I'd have to rewatch the series. I think we're all left, like a good book, that's an individual interpretation, and that's left to be debated, and I think Ron Moore did a wonderful job that way, because that's not something I can answer briefly. I'm incredibly proud of that show. It was an amazing, amazing series. Edward James Olmos, our lead, was, he knew that it was incredible. He knew that this thing was going to stand the test of time. We're 15 years later. The show is still talked about, still celebrated. We went to Comic-Con in San Diego a couple years ago, and we had the most incredible welcome, massive audience, filled out the room, 5,000 people, just still celebrating the show after 15 years. I'm so proud to have been part of such important art that to this day is still discussed so much. And what was the second part of your question, sorry?
What was your favorite story arc or episode from Battlestar? And I know it's a while back, but...
No, yeah, I mean, there's so many. I was always a fan of the show also. Most of us were. We couldn't wait to get the episode. And it wasn't just because we were fans, we were also worried we were going to be killed. So every one of us would casually try and act like it was cool. So have you read the latest episode? And we'd always be like, no, what? Is everything okay? Am I dead? We worry about being, because characters were killed off of that show all the time. So you rushed that episode, that script as soon as you got it, you read it. Of course I'm biased, but I loved the Hilo and Sharon storyline. It was truly wonderful, and I think that, thank you guys. Yeah, I think it started off, it was kind of a B or C storyline. It wasn't as significant. But when the writers saw the chemistry between Grace and I and the extra work we were doing, they wrote to it. And I celebrated. Yeah. I celebrate that. I'm so grateful for that, because it became much more pertinent to the overall storyline. And I don't think that was the plan originally. But I think that the writers couldn't ignore it, and it became one of the main parts of the storyline in the end. But there were so many that were so good. I mean, James Callis and Gaius Baltar in 6 was brilliant. The love between Laura Roslin and Adama, the love affair between the love that they had for each other was incredible. Starbuck storyline was always amazing. Her and Anders, beautiful. They were all individually, each and every one's storyline was always fascinating. And I think the beautiful thing about that show is you were always left wanting for more. You wanted a little more interaction. You wanted to see what that quiet look or that small gesture you saw between them, a shared look, a moment of smile, a vulnerability. There was so many subtleties in that show with the actors and their performances that were so beautiful that just really, filled the audience with curiosity and empathy. I'm just forever grateful for that show. Thank you. So guys, wait 1 second. I'm just going to look here. I gotta remember where I put this. I'm going to be an idiot if I don't do this. I had a fan reach out. Oh God, I should have prepped this beforehand. Anyway, I had a fan reach out who explained that, briefly, this goes back to the convention love. This is why I'm so happy that we're all doing this. Regardless of how divisive politically the times are that we're living in, one thing that I always appreciate and I celebrate about you guys at conventions, regardless of race, creed, sexuality, political ideologies, anything, conventions are about people celebrating something they love. You guys ignore all of that stuff. You come in, you celebrate each other, you love each other, you're respectful. You celebrate us in the show, we share that passion together. I love that. The world needs more of that, right? Especially right now. And I've seen such extreme, beautiful, touching examples of generosity and love and sympathy and giving and charity at these things. And I want to thank all you guys for that. Continue that again, because the world needs it more than ever. So, a fan reached out to me, and she said that her friend Erin is doing something, I'm just going to read you this very soon. Erin is doing something very selfless, and I think she would deserve all the love in the world. And I don't think Erin's here today, she's coming tomorrow, but I'm going to give her a shout out anyway. She's going to be a living liver donor for another girl, whom she barely knows, who is a woman of letters PGH with us. So we just wanted to celebrate her. She's doing something incredibly giving for someone she's only met a couple times, I think, as I understand. Only known for a brief amount of time. That level of altruism, that bravery, it's just astounding to me. It's inspiring when I read this. And I want us all to just give a shout out to Erin. And of course, the person she's giving her liver to, I hope they have a speedy recovery. And again, thank you guys. I love you guys. This type of generosity, these extremes of it. I'm not telling you all to go out and give away your livers, but I'm saying it's a pretty incredible thing, right?
We need them this weekend.
But back to it, it's the small gestures, it's the little things, We're having a problem these days. Social media is such a beautiful and amazing thing, but we're also not communicating enough like this, face to face, looking at someone, hearing their voice. Just take the time to do that because it's really important right now. Anyway, on to the next question.
So after this might seem kind of frivolous, but since we're in Vegas, do you gamble at all? And if you do, what's your favorite game?
You know what? I don't gamble. So that's a quick question. I do not, and I cannot, because I feel like if I ever did, I'd be out of house and home. My lady would be like, just don't even bother coming back, because you did what? You lost how much? Well, I hope you have a nice time finding a job down there. And creation will take you on. Anyway, I don't. What about you? What's your game?
I get addicted to the slots really easily, but I actually won pretty big last night. So
Did you?
I did.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Hey, listen, I think it's fun. I love people who celebrate. That's one of the things about this town. People love to do it. Hey, I'm all for it. I personally don't do it because I've always had a strong sense of things that would be real dangerous for me. And I think that I just cannot go there. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was wondering, you've been in so many great shows, including, aside from Supernatural, Battlestar, Dollhouse, which I thought was a shame that it only got 2 seasons. And I was wondering, of those, what was your favorite character that you got to play, and why? And also, do you have a favorite story from any of those shows that you'd like to share with us?
I mean, there was a period there where I was always, most partial to Battlestar because it was the most significant. I did it the longest time, and I was very young in my career when it happened. And I had, again, as I alluded to in the very beginning, I had such a cerebral, such a spiritual connection to Hilo and his story and who he was. But, I'm a lot older now. I've been in this business, 20 plus years, and I try to look back on it all fondly. Some roles, they were more trying than others, but I try to focus and understand, with hindsight, like the beautiful things about all of them. There were a lot of times Dollhouse wasn't fun. I came out of Battlestar bristling with confidence in my craft and so excited to be personally chosen by Joss Whedon to do this new series on Fox. It was a big deal. Joss Whedon was a god at the time. Very, very excited. And I went in there, and it was trying in the beginning. It was trying because the show was struggling right out of the gates. They reshot the pilot. They, I think Joss was having disagreements with Fox and the executives there about the direction of the show, even though he'd been told that he could do his own thing. And as an actor, that's tough. When you're worried about the fate of the show, the new show that you're on, that has been for months just celebrated, and everyone's going to be like, this is the new Joss Whedon show. It's going to be huge. Like at the beginning, we were going to open for 24. It was an amazing time slot. That's how excited the network was and everyone was about Joss Whedon and this new show. And in a 3-month period, if I remember correctly, and it's been a good 11, 12 years, we went from like the #1 slot opening for the biggest show in the world at the time, 24, to like the death slot on Friday night.
Right on.
Things just changed. That's how the network works, and things weren't going well. So suddenly things weren't great. So I was so excited. I was so elated to make this transition from Battlestar to Dollhouse. And then we were struggling, and you could feel that tension on set. You could feel the insecurity on set. That said, incredible actors I got to work with, beautiful people I'm still friends with. Some of them I haven't talked to in a long time, but if I saw them, we've always shared that bond, and I'm so blessed to have had that. Some real veterans like Olivia, Harry Lennox, just really talented actors, and regardless of the anxiety and the angst and the insecurity there was for a lot of us while we were shooting it, always wondering if the plug was going to be bold, I always look back at that time with a lot of, and just try and focus on the positive stuff, because it really was incredible. And I've told this story before, but halfway through the second season, I could tell something was up with Josh. I could see that something was bothering him on set. We were doing a big scene with most of the main characters. I think there was about 8 of us in there. And I went up to him, just tried to pull him aside. I was like, is everything okay? I thought maybe something had happened with his family or something. I could tell that he was carrying something. And he said, I'll speak on it in a minute. And I was like, oh boy, okay. Kind of had an idea what it might be then, right? And they made the announcement, said, listen, Fox, let us know that we are not going to get a 3rd season. But they're going to allow us to do the last 6. And I remember the time, I was a little sad, but I also wasn't surprised. It was surprising to be on the 2nd season. And at that moment, right then, I decided that I was going to make the rest of those 6 episodes the best I've ever had with these people. You know what I mean? Really be present with them, enjoy every single moment of it. And I did. And there were grinder days, and there were some days that kind of sucked because we worked our asses off. And just, every day there's a tough scene, maybe the dialogue's tough, maybe you're running behind, there's a new director, there's disagreements. I just enjoyed all of it as much as I could. And I really tried to impress on some of the younger actors who it was their first show that they should do the same. And I would argue that most of us had a blast with those last 6 episodes. So it was really kind of bittersweet, but also beautiful at the same time. We went out with music, Yeah. Thank you. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty great. So
Fantastic.
my question for you is, how did you come up with the speech cadence that you used for Gadriel's character? That was, I absolutely love your speaking voice, and it was just a pleasure to listen to Gadriel speak every line.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And second part is, I don't know if you had a chance, I don't know how often you got to be with Jared, seeing him perform as Gadriel. Do you feel like he did a good job maintaining that same speech cadence?
Well, see, so that's the debate. A lot of people, I was pretty much every convention, I have to speak on this. I didn't realize when I was hired that I thought I was going to be the first one playing him, because nobody told me different. They also, for a lot of you don't know this, I don't know how many times I've spoken on this, but when I auditioned for the role of Ezekiel, I did a casting. I had no idea, because they changed the name of it, so I just did this scene, and so I knew nothing. They didn't tell me anything. I just knew I was playing Angel, and I did a scene from Casper, I think it was from the season prior, previous. So I came in, and they just wouldn't give me a lot of information. They're like, so you're going to be playing an angel, but he's not really that angel, he's a different angel. I was like, okay, all right, I guess I have to make some choices. They didn't tell me a lot. So yeah, I went in, and then the director was like, hey, do you want to see what Jared has done with the character? And this is right before I was about to shoot a scene. I'm like, what do you mean, with what character? And he goes, well, with Gadriel. And I go, I'm Gadriel. I'm Gadriel right now. I'm playing Gadriel. What do you mean? What? And I went into a state of panic right away, because I was like, please don't tell me that Jared, the lead, is playing the character already. Nobody's told me this. Why wouldn't anybody think of telling me this? And he's like, ooh, yeah. So he did. Yeah. We did a scene with him the other day, so yeah, he went first. Would you like to see that? I'm like, do you think that would be a good idea, that I would see him playing the lead character? And I think it's a good idea. What do you think? How much time do we have? It's like, under 5 minutes. I'm like, I want to know. Jumping knees were on my mind. I was like, God damn it, show me this scene, quick! So showed it to me, and Jared was very specific in he was doing this thing physically. He was almost, he was angelic. He was almost like a superhero. He was almost Shakespearean, do you know what I mean? And it kind of fell in line with the choices that I made, because I had thought about Cadence, the way that he would speak. He would be different. He's from a different era. He's from thousands of years previous. You know, he's he's ancient. He's been tortured. That it would be almost Shakespearean the way that he spoke. There would be something very purposeful and specific about the way he spoke. And Jared was basically bang on. He was doing his own thing. What I took from him more than anything in that minute and 22 seconds that I had was the way he was moving. So I incorporated a little bit of that. And the rest of it, after that, you just throw it away and you go with it. So it ended up working out. Again, thank you.
Hi, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
So I also enjoyed Dollhouse a lot, and I liked how you were the one that killed Beckett's bomb on Castle. And it seems like you play a lot of stoic and/or dangerous characters. I'm wondering if you have wanted to or have ever played any, zany comic relief types.
You know what's funny? You know what I've found in this business is when you speak about something, I've been blessed enough, it actually happens. I started my career, I was playing these stoic, heroic, moral compass types, which of course is who I am. That was the beginning of my career. And I remember when I finished Hilo and Paul Ballard at Dollhouse, I was really putting it out there. I was like, I'd really like to play some bad guys. Really love to. I've done it at theater school, I've done scenes. They're a lot of fun. You can really sink your teeth in there. They can be a lot of fun. And then the roles started coming to me. It was great. One thing that a lot of people don't know about me is, and I had the opportunity in theater school, like when I'm acting, I love to laugh. And I can be a little bit of a ham too. I like character work. For whatever reason, I don't get a lot of it. But I started putting it out there that I wanted to do comedy. And I ended up being able to do this small, quirky, independent little comedy thing called Rift World. And it was a blast. Thank you, the one person. I love you. It was so much fun. And it's actually really kind of natural for me. I love it. There's not a lot of effort put into it. I'm not saying I'm some great comic or whatever, but I like it, I enjoy it. And most of my friends, most of my people who know me well would say, why don't you do more of that? They usually do. And even actor friends. It's funny, I did an interview with Cadence the other day. Cadence and I are like siblings. She lived with me off and on in LA for like 12 years. But she was talking about it in this interview, this podcast we did. She's like, it's a crime that Tahmoh hasn't gotten more comedy. She goes, I'm waiting for the industry to finally give him a role. So, on that, and because you brought it up, I'm putting it out there, and hopefully I get a comedic role here sooner than later. Because usually when I discuss it and I talk about it, the universe is eventually willing to reciprocate. So let's put it out there, and maybe I'll get the opportunity. And maybe I'll get a laugh out of you. Thank you, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
So this question is, so me and my little brother are a fan of Trick or Treat, and so I feel like this is the question he would ask, because he's back in Portland.
What's his name?
Pedro.
Hi, Pedro.
Thank you. What horror movie or like trilogy would you like to be in? Like if you could.
Trick or Treat Part 2 and 3. Right? Right?
Yeah, I would sign a petition for that.
Let's do it. Let's get this trending. I'm telling you. There's always been a huge movement to get a part 2 for it to happen again. I actually haven't seen Mike in years, Mike Doherty, the director and writer. And Mike and I were good buds, man. But I haven't seen him in years. And the last couple times I've been in LA or he's been in Vancouver, we haven't been able to connect. And I just want to see him. I want to see him and find out like if it's a possibility. Because Mike's huge. Like Godzilla, Mike wrote that. That was the last Godzilla. Like he's a big deal, man. He's extremely talented. And I know that this could be a thing. He could bring back another one for sure. So that is the one that I want to be a part of.
Hi. First, I'm Trinity.
Hi, Trinity.
And my question is, if you could pick any role, any character from any source material, books, movies, anything, do you have a dream role you would love to play?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of them. Blade Runner's always been one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little old now, but I would still love to play a Nexus 6. But the thing is, from what I hear, and I peed a little, I'll be honest with you, apparently they're going to come out, Ridley's coming out with a series, Blade Runner series. I'm going to put this out to the universe. Ridley, I will give one of my, I'll give you my pinky, man. I would do anything to be a part of that. I, to this day, am so moved by the performances in the original, and I loved the remake.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was incredible, and I'm a die-hard fan of the original. I thought Villeneuve, one of the best directors out there today.
Yeah.
He's incredible. You guys saw Dune?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what an amazing film. I'm such a sci-fi nerd. Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to see. I would do anything to have to play a. It wouldn't even be a Nexus 6. It'd be like a Nexus 48 at this point. You know, especially the new series. Apparently, the series is going to be set even, I think, 50 years after the Blade Runner 2049. So that'll be really interesting to see. Yeah, that's the dream role. Thank you.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
So I've been binge watching a lot during quarantine, obviously, and you have
You and
appeared in so many shows. And I just wanted to know what it's been like being a part of all these fandoms, even if it was a small part, because more often than not, a lot of people remember you. Like I'm sitting down watching Castle, you appear, and my friend's like, "Oh wait, wasn't he on an episode of Criminal Minds in Smallville?"
It's cool. Yeah. I mean, I've been able to work as a professional, and it's for a small town northern Canadian boy who comes from a town of 20,000 people. pursuing my dream and being able to do this at a professional level, at the level I've been able to do with, to work with the incredible, talented people that I've been able to work with, the amazing shows that I've been able to do. When that was just a dream for me, when I was a kid, I had a big imagination, and I always wanted to do this, even when I was a child. You know, my father would take me to, you know, amazing films, and I would look at these actors and filming these different locations and learning these new skills, and I was fascinated by it. I was in awe of it, and I remember thinking, if I could do this, this would be the greatest thing in the world. And I'm doing it. And it's a tough business. When it's slow, actors are terrible. It's so easy for us to forget, you know, how gracious we should be, and how it's just part of the ride. When things are good, they're amazing. When they're bad, it's terrible. There's no job in the world that you face more rejection. Like, you know, I use this app to upload my auditions, and this app's only been out a few years, as I remember. It's a new app, because mostly people, we just self-tape now. Like, nobody's going in for auditions anymore. And I looked at it the other day, and it was like 145 auditions, like in, you know, a couple of years or something. It's astounding. We're talking like books of pages of dialogue that I've done. You forget about it. It's 90% of that, 95% of that, rejection. Nope. So that's the tough part of the game. But the thing is, that is part of the game. It goes hand in hand. And when you do get the good things, you get to work on all these different shows, some of them that you alluded to, you know, that's when we do it. We fall in love with this craft, and we're always chasing that next gig, and we just love to do what we do. We love the dance. And I'm just grateful, just gracious. I'm gracious for this. I wouldn't be doing this convention. I wouldn't be doing the circuits, the sci-fi conventions, and all these things if I hadn't been on all the different shows that I've been. You know, I think when I was first starting out, I didn't realize how much I had to be grateful for. And as I get older every year, I have so much to be grateful for. I'm incredibly blessed and thankful to you guys too for being so supportive.
So me, and I was, the first question was just one I know off the top of my head because I had brain fart. But what was it like playing Paul Maddox on Castle and working with Static and
It was amazing. Yes, Stana, I've said many times, Stana's one of the most beautiful people I've ever worked with, and I mean that inside and out. She's a stunning woman, but her soul, her spirit, her humor, her wit, her intelligence, she's just a beautiful person, and we connected right away. And that's an iconic scene up on top of that building. You know, that killer scene, 17th floor of the building downtown LA. Shooting there. It was so cool to do. I loved working with her. Working out that fight choreography and doing that killer scene with her was so much fun. I wish Cole was very much a man who didn't have a lot to say. He walked around and killed people, and he was a quiet assassin, but I was left wanting more in that aspect. But being able to work with Stana and that whole crew, and being on such a big show, iconic show as Castle was a real blessing. Thank you. Thank you guys. So good to see you. Have such an amazing time this weekend. Drink lots, eat lots. I love you.